Homecoming is here.
It's the time of year where alumni and students come together.
Full speed. Full speed.
We take you around the world in 80 days with our theater program.
Plus, a look at the annual Apple Fest presented by SGA.
And a blast from the past with an oldies concert.
In sports, we have women's volleyball picking up their 14th consecutive win, plus men's and women's final conference soccer games.
And later, we sit down for our Making the Difference segment with Hunter Green.
These stories and more are coming up next.
This special homecoming edition of Stampede TV begins now.
Welcome to this special edition of Stampede TV. I'm Elijah Manship.
And I'm Erin Donovan. Our theater program hosted a play over the homecoming weekend.
I got an inside look at the first showing of Around the World in 80 Days.
On October 25th through the 28th, Milligan put on the first play of the year, Around the World in 80 Days. The play featured plenty of humor, moving set pieces, and clever use of sound and lights. The cast was made up of 8 actors: Joshua Bullen, Margaret Singlin, Sierra Frostley, Megan Rogers, Bradley Harvey, Samuel Kelly, Colby McKeon, and Sam Musgrave. I got to sit down with ensemble actor Colby McKeon and talk to him about what his favorite part of the play was.
My favorite part about any play, I think, is getting to come out to the mezzanine at the very end and see the people and hear what their thoughts were about the play. This little girl came up to me at the end of the Sunday showing, and she couldn't have been 6 or 7, and she was just like, "Oh, I enjoyed it so much. You were so funny." And it's moments like those that really make it all worth it, all the hard work we put in. So,
watching the play, I was most impressed with the intricacy of the moving set pieces and how they managed to pull it off. Play director Richard Major had more to say on this.
The big challenge, I think, for this was to make all of the show move rather seamlessly. So we go from one thing right to the next, to the next, to the next, without any great lapses of time.
After the entire show was over, many in the audience left with an immense feeling of satisfaction towards the play, and felt like it was a great step forward for plays here at Milligan.
A lot of times plays here are a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more out there, but I really liked this play because it seemed more whimsical, more lighthearted than normal, and I liked everybody who was in it. I thought the cast did really well when I saw it, so that was probably something that was so different.
Reporting from Stampede TV, I'm Elijah Manship.
Make sure to stay tuned next semester for Milligan's performance of the musical, The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
SGA hosted their annual homecoming events this past week. Students lined up on the porch of Hart Hall on Monday to celebrate one of the most popular events, Apple Fest. They were able to enjoy apple desserts and apple cider. SGA members say that this is always the most popular event and a great way to start the week. Wednesday came with a new event to this year's lineup with pumpkin carving and s'mores. Many came out to carve a pumpkin for the contest. Midnight Dodgeball on Friday in the Steve Lacey Fieldhouse capped off the events hosted by our SGA members. Senior President Bethany Witherspoon says it's all worth it.
We do these events, especially during homecoming week, to really build the community up, get people out of their dorms, hanging out with each other, making new friends, and maybe trying new things.
SGA's looks forward to hosting more events next semester.
The annual homecoming parade took place on Saturday. Buffalo's both young and old gathered on the sidewalks of Blowers Boulevard to watch the homecoming parade. President Bill Greer led the herd through campus alongside the Director of Servant Leadership, Beth Anderson. Many alumni groups came home to participate in the parade, as well as other festivities. And, of course, Brutus was there as current students walked down the boulevard as well. Bringing joy to the crowd, several teams and clubs were represented as they tossed out candy and smiles to the crowd. Clouds may have gathered overhead, but it was not enough to stop the herd.
We're here to just celebrate this weekend, and the parade was fabulous. It was a lot of fun. Got to see a lot of students, and that was really fun and exciting. So it's a great weekend, even though it's raining, but we're still having a great time.
The parade is always a favorite homecoming tradition for students and alumni.
Alumni were honored on Friday night with a dinner in the McCormick Dining Hall. The night started with dinner and ended with awards and inductions into the Athletic Hall of Fame. Alumni Will Little and Kelly Sam Scott both received the Professional Excellence Award. Little, who was a former baseball player for the Buffs, was also inducted into the Hall of Fame with several others for baseball, basketball, and softball. The event was held to honor those former Buffs for their achievements.
Homecoming started bright and early Saturday morning with the annual Buffalo 5K race.
I attended the race and got to see this year's winner. Milligan Homecoming has their annual 5K race every year. The race features many friends, family, students, alum, and sometimes even Brutus, the buffalo.
I lost a bet. I like paying money for torture. Actually, our kids run cross country, and so I'm just trying to keep up with them. That's the honest answer.
And my wife and I enjoy running. We do it together a lot, and it's fun.
Free T-shirt. Or I think we paid for it.
Yeah, we
paid for the T-shirt.
Yeah, registration, yeah.
The course is around Milligan's campus and includes both Sutton and the Village Hill.
I've been running for fun a lot since June, so I was like, this is a good goal to work toward, so I have something to accomplish.
The race is a 5K for runners or a 2.5K for walkers. It is an annual event hosted by ALM and raises scholarship funds for Milligan students. The race featured both returners and new runners, as well as a furry one or two. The winner of the race was Brian Long, father of student Amy Long.
I think my favorite part of the race, even though like as hard as they were the hills, because they really challenged me to push forward to like keep finishing the race. You want to go?
What's your favorite part of the race?
Going down the hills.
Going down the hills?
This has been Erin reporting with Stampede TV. We look forward to next year's Buffalo 5K race at Homecoming. Did you know Derthick is good for more than just classes? This weekend, a new art exhibit had its showing in the basement of Derthick. Milligan alum Ty Lee had the opening of his show, Cycles of Cynicism, this homecoming weekend. Lee received his undergraduate in Fine Arts and Photography from Milligan in 2008. This show was primarily collage pieces referencing societal values or lack thereof, religion, feminism, morality, as well as flourishment. Students and faculty alike enjoyed the show.
My favorite part of this art exhibit is seeing everyone's unique perspectives on the topic at hand and seeing all the colors that pop and really getting to see everyone's individual personality shine through using various different pieces of work to combine to form one unique piece of art.
Stay tuned for more art exhibits both this semester and next semester.
After the break, we'll talk with Hunter Green in our Making the Difference segment.
And later, the annual Trunk or Treat hosted by Link. Stay tuned.
Here's your sandwich, miss.
Oh, thank you.
And your burger.
Awesome, thank you.
And your bowl of boiling water, sir.
A shooting on campus. It's something we hope will never happen. But it seems to be happening more and more often. We asked questions and discovered what you should do if it ever occurs here.
You could have 22 city officers in that vicinity within 10 minutes.
Now guidelines are posted in every building. It's potentially life-saving information because we're in this together. We're Stampede TV, Milligan student-operated news source.
Hello and welcome to this week's segment of Making the Difference. This episode with us, we have Hunter Green. Hunter, thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me, Erin.
So we've heard that you're making the difference around the community. We heard that you're a preacher.
Yes.
How long have you been preaching?
I've been preaching for 5 years, since I was 16.
All right, how'd you get your start in preaching?
Actually, loved basketball a long time, and then when I was 15, I had a back injury and couldn't play basketball anymore, so kind of had an identity crisis, and kind of found some stability in my faith, and felt God calling me to preach the gospel, and felt like it was the right time, so started preaching when I was 16, so.
Do you remember what your first sermon was about?
I do. First sermon I preached was on Abraham and Isaac, and I talked about being able to lay your kind of your idols down on the altar in order to live for God. So it's kind of personal to me, but.
Did you preach a lot to your youth group, or like where was your preaching opportunities?
So starting out, most of my preaching opportunities, I preached in my home church. I used to go to Valley Forge Free Will Baptist, but most of my preaching opportunities were kind of in small churches within my denomination, a few churches outside of my denomination, a few youth rallies, but mostly for things like homecomings, just when a preacher couldn't be there, I would fill in for him, so that kind of thing.
And where do you preach now?
I'm currently serving as the associate pastor at Harmony Free Will Baptist in Gap Creek in Hampton. So.
How long have you been there?
It'll be 3 years this coming March. Next March.
So you were, how old were you?
I was 19 when I started at Harmony.
Wow.
Yeah.
A 19-year-old associate pastor.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the best part of preaching?
Best part of preaching, I think, has to be the people. Not to sound cheesy, but just knowing that things that I could say or things, just interactions that I have with congregations, especially being at Harmony and having a home church now, just being able to kind of see that I also have an impact on them, but knowing that things that they do for me in my life has kind of changed me. So.
Do you have a story or an example of that?
One comes to mind, and one of my favorites was last year. We had a kind of a pastor appreciation almost a year ago, and they had kind of a box with some little trinkets that would symbolize certain messages that me and our senior pastor Brandon had preached. The adults and the youth did this, and it was just kind of cool to see that certain sermons had kind of had an influence on people's lives, and they had said that certain things that we had said kind of changed the way they thought about the Bible or about God, or inspired them to go serve in the community. So that I appreciated that, just to know that what we were doing wasn't necessarily going unnoticed, but it was that we were, I guess, being effective, or that God was using us. So
that's awesome. What's been the hardest part about preaching for you?
The hardest part, definitely the past, I guess, 2.5 years now, has been trying to figure out how to balance being able to give my church the time that it needs, giving basketball and the team the time that it needs, and also school the time that it needs. There's been a lot of times where I've carried around a lot of guilt, just feeling like that I haven't been able to give the time, adequate time that the people deserve. So I think that's been the hardest part, just kind of feeling like I've cheated them a little bit. But.
How do you think your time at Harmony has influenced your time here at Milligan to help make the difference?
I think Harmony is a special place with some special people. We have former alcoholics, former meth addicts, drug addicts, just a lot of broken people. And being at Harmony, I think, has made me a more compassionate and merciful person, and that has helped me to come back to Milligan on this campus and form and develop relationships with people that I don't think I would have otherwise, by being able to not just have a compassionate heart, but be interested in trying to develop relationships with people who aren't like me.
Hunter Green, thanks for coming this week.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for on this week's segment of Making the Difference. If you know someone that you think is making the difference and should be nominated, you can contact us through social media or by email. The latest national world news is up after this, and later we'll show you Link's annual Trunk or Treat event. All this and more on Stampede TV.
Graduation. It's one of the biggest moments for each of us, but overcrowding meant that we could no longer have just one ceremony. For some, this meant sharing the event with your entire family. For others, splitting up this community.
I know it's not expected and change is hard, but we had this idea we would all matriculate together and we would all graduate together.
We provided you with a voice on an important issue because we're in this together. We are Stampede TV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
No doubt you're going places, young lady.
Thank you. And thank you for the interview as well. I can imagine it was the last thing that you wanted to do after such a long campaign meeting.
You really are a very intelligent young woman. You're very smooth.
You're very smooth yourself.
You have no idea.
There were 3 more funerals in Pittsburgh Wednesday, following Saturday's shooting at a synagogue that killed 11 people.
The suspect in the case faces dozens of charges and could face the death penalty. Kelly Smoot has this report.
This is a small community that we all know each other, and we're burying our dead. We're mourning with our community.
More funerals today in Pittsburgh. Mourners gathered at services for 3 of the 11 victims of Saturday's synagogue shooting. 75-year-old Joyce Feenberg was a retired research specialist at the University of Pittsburgh. 69-year-old Irving Younger was a former real estate agent and greeter at the Tree of Life Synagogue.
He loved going there, and he just loved life.
And 87-year-old Melvin Wax was an accountant and Pittsburgh Pirates fan. His sister-in-law said Melvin loved his religion.
He was just a good soul. He loved to tell jokes to everybody.
11 people were gunned down Saturday morning at the Tree of Life Synagogue during worship services. The suspect in the case, 46-year-old Robert Bowers, is in jail, and a federal grand jury today issued a 44-count indictment. If convicted, Bowers could ultimately face the death penalty.
My office charged Robert Bowers with federal murder and assault charges relative to the horrific acts of violence he committed at the Tree of Life Synagogue.
Bowers will next appear in court tomorrow at 10 a.m.
At that time, we will have the opportunity to present evidence demonstrating that Robert Bowers murdered 11 people who were exercising their religious beliefs and that he shot or injured 6 others.
I'm Kelly Smoot reporting.
President Donald Trump is considering sending thousands of more troops to the southern border to stop the migrant caravan from making its way to the U.S.
And they got a lot of rough people in those caravans. They are not angels.
Speaking to reporters Wednesday evening before a rally in Florida, President Trump says in addition to the some 5,000 U.S. troops already headed to the southern border to contain migrants headed for the U.S., he's considering increasing that number to as many as 15,000.
As far as the caravan is concerned, our military is out. We have about 5,008. We'll go up to anywhere between 10 and 15,000 military personnel on top of Border Patrol, ICE, and everybody else at the border.
A former Marine and Homeland Security spokesman for the Trump administration tweeted Wednesday, "The U.S. doesn't need its military to defend against a group of unarmed migrants, including many women and kids." And when Defense Secretary James Mattis was questioned if troop deployment to the border was a political stunt, he said,
The support that we provide to the Secretary for Homeland Security is practical support based on the request from the Commissioner of Customs and Border Police. And so we don't do stunts in this department. Thank you.
All U.S. troops will also join more than 2,000 National Guardsmen already at the border who are mobilized to stop Central American migrants from reaching U.S. soil. I'm Mary Maloney reporting.
Kayla Baker joins us now with sports.
And she has details on our women's volleyball team winning the North Division.
After the break, I'll tell you about men's and women's soccer gearing up for the conference tournament. Plus, basketball season is now here. Sports is next.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. Together, we can end their walk by providing clean water. Because when you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Two national championships in 1 year. It was the first time it had ever happened before.
It was kind of one of those surreal moments, like at the time you don't really realize, the magnitude of what you've done.
When one person has an accomplishment, we all celebrate, because we're in this together. We are Stampede TV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
With 14 straight wins, the volleyball team clinched the AAC North title. Win number 14 came over conference rival Truett McConnell on the road Tuesday night. The Buffs were off to an early lead, making for a 9-0 run in the first set. Junior setter Kelly Guerin had a stellar performance for the Buffs with 17 digs, making that her 14th double-double this season. Freshman Elise Gregory had a big role in the win with a match high of 16 kills. The Buffs went on to win it in 4 sets. The win put the team at a 23-4 overall record, just one conference match left in this season. The conference tournament is set to begin November 8th in Kingsport. The Lady Buffs soccer team picked up the win on Monday to end their regular season. The Buffs pulled off an impressive win against conference matchup Columbia College with a score of 3-2. It was a comeback win for the Buffs, who were trailing by 2 goals with less than 30 minutes left in the game. Freshman Alex Thomas tied the game for the Lady Buffs, while junior Dharma Fallbush got the game-winning goal, making that her second winning goal of the season. With the win, the team will be the 4th seed heading into the conference tournament. They will host a quarterfinal match here at England Field. The team will host number 5 seed Point University. More information on the tournament can be found at milliganbuffs.com later this week. Men's soccer ended the regular season earning a spot into the AAC tournament with wins over Bryan College and Union College. The Buffs had an interesting season, from bouncing back from an 0-4 start in the conference to losing former head coach David Lilly due to an expired visa. The team has overcome this season to earning wins in the final minutes of the game and earning a spot into the tournament as an 8th seed. The Buffs will travel to Georgia to take on Point University. The team was shut out earlier this season by Point, losing 3-0. The men's basketball team opened up the season last week on the road against the Cumberlands. The Buffs came up short, losing 63-58. The women's basketball team looks to start things off this weekend with their first game on the road at Tusculum College. And that's what's going on in sports.
Thanks, Kayla.
Coming up next, we'll tell you about Link's annual event. More Stampede TV is coming up after this.
Hammocks. They're one of our favorite pastimes. Student leaders promise new mounts behind dorms to make things even easier.
It's going to allow for hopefully 14 hammocks.
But when a year passed with no mounts, we asked why.
The hammock mounts that had not been installed a year after the plan was announced.
Those interview requests were declined. The very next morning, those mounts were installed. We stuck with the story until the very end, because we are in this together. We are Stampede TV, Milligan's student-operated news source.
Oh, Dapper Leon. I almost feel like every Friday I have a date. He'll have a vest or a jacket.
She sees me at my best.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org.
You're watching Erin Donovan, Elijah Manship, Kayla Baker with sports, and the rest of your Stampede TV team.
Trunk or Treat, a time for children, adults, and college students come together dressed to impress. This past week, Milligan hosted their own Trunk or Treat event sponsored by Link.
This past Monday night, Link hosted the annual Milligan Trunk or Treat. Now in its 12th year, the participation is stronger than ever. Students from across the campus came out dressed up in their favorite costumes to hand out free candy to local children.
Usually we had 400 last year, so a lot. This is it brings in a lot of people.
This event began as a way to bring the community together with positive family fun.
My mother and his Grammy is the nurse here at Milligan, so we were excited to be able to come. Weren't you? Who works here? Grammy.
The event featured many different exciting costumes, both by local kids and students. Each trunk, decorated by students, teams, or clubs, featured an interesting theme for children of all ages.
This year we had 20, which is actually a really good turnout. We actually had everybody that signed up show up, so really good.
Some of which included all-time favorites like Monsters, Inc., Scooby-Doo, famous superheroes, and some of Disney's most beloved princesses, to name a few. But just how much candy does it take to put on an event like this?
Oh my goodness, we had to acquire so much candy. We told each of the trunks at least 425 pieces, but we actually had hundreds and hundreds of extra, and we've used quite a bit of it already, and we're just getting started, so a lot of candy.
While handing out free candy and getting dressed up for this eventful night is fun, it's not the only reason for this event. By participating in this event, Milligan students are providing lasting positive memories to children and their families. Something community is all about. Link looks to continue this beloved event for years to come. Chase McGlamory reporting for Stampede TV.
And that's all for this edition of Stampede TV. Be sure to vote. Election Day is November 6th. Also, be sure to check out the senior art exhibits, November 4th through the 16th. They're in the basement of Derthick Hall. For latest news information, visit us online at milliganstampede.com.
Or check us out on social media.
More news available in our printer edition and newsstands around the campus.
Thanks for watching. I'm Elijah Manship.
And I'm Erin Donovan. Join us again for our next newscast on November 30th. Have a great rest of your day.